Afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining as always. And we're going to run through something quite delicious today. So haven't had a culinary expert on yet. And I'm excited because well, most of us live for food. I have a best friend that eats to live and I live to eat. So we're very different.
Well put.
Exactly, right? I'm like, you know what? I go for the food. So thank you, Karolina Guilcapi of State Adventures, who's joining me today. And I'm excited to talk to you. Say hi and tell us a little bit about your company before we start out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. Sate Adventures. I've always was enamored with the word sated, fully satisfied. And people always ask me about what does sated mean? And it just blows my mind that you don't know because feeling satisfied is so important. And I always associate that with travel too. And what makes you happiest when you're traveling is food and wine and just culinary experiences. So after being in luxury sales of travel for 15 years, I decided to really niche down during COVID, when we all had extra time to really think about what we love the most. And I said, okay, I love Latin America, but I love food. And there's this gap in the industry. No one's really focusing on those two things together. And that's where Sate Adventures was born. I love Latin America. That's the heart of the company. 80% of what we do is in Latin America. The whole idea is to go to remote places and introduce kind of a culinary anthropology experience, anthropology, the study of humans and culture, but we do that through food. So you're breaking bread with indigenous communities. You're really diving in, peeking into doorways and going into kitchens and also going to fine dining restaurants and meeting chefs. There's a whole spectrum of culinary experiences, and we just like to include them. Do you have to be foodies? No, but you will eat well. That's how I like to put it. So everything is custom made, and we now offer 40 countries because after people experienced a lot of Latin America, they keep asking me what's more, or what else is out there. So we added on Southeast Asia, which made perfect sense for us. We added Africa, which is so rich in flavor, and a few places in Europe where people just need a little hand holding and where I know we can eat well. So that's the beginnings for sure.
No, that's great. And let's go back to what you said about Latin America, because I find the same thing. And let's talk about that. Why don't people realize what a treasure trove it is? And I know it's a big region, we're generalizing. And for some reason, we promote Peru, for example. And I tell them Lima is like the culinary capital of
Number one restaurant in the world is in Lima, Peru. Yeah.
Do they want to remain a best kept secret, or are they just humble? What is it about that blows people's mind?
Yes, I completely agree. People have this vision of I need to travel, so I'm going to go to tackle Europe first. That's almost always the case. And then they want to do something exotic, so they'll do an African safari. And then they meet me, and I tell them all about the Galapagos and Machu Picchu and Argentina. You want Europe? Go to the Paris of South America, Buenos Aires. Amazing food and wine at a fraction of the cost, and so much culture. And you can have mountains, and you can go skiing. You can do so much in such a small part, such a small region. So it is my life's goal to share Latin America with people, because once they go once, that's it. Then they're hooked and they want to keep going, and they're so curious about what else they can discover there.
Yeah, I think the value and the lack of crowds, and most of the time the lack of the sweltering heat and all these things. It's funny because Europe
is no jet lag because you're flying south. Yep. That's huge.
People love Europe, but it's like you're willing to put up with those temps and you're willing to put up with those crowds and the touristy restaurants that they read about. And I think what people like you do is they uncover places that are not out there courting press and are not out there, trying to be the grande dame of everything, but still offering something amazing, right?
Yes, I was just in Peru a month ago, and we went simply to meet the potato whisperer. That's a thing, and he's developing amazing wines and different dishes. And he's actually developing potatoes the way the Incas did. And he has a whole laboratory, and you get to go and do that with him. And it's just a beautiful experience around food. But it doesn't, it does not mean, you're going to eat foam and things like that. It means you're going to learn something about the culture, around the table, which is such a big thing. Everyone eats, right? So in order to combine yourself with the local community, just sit down with them. It's the best way.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are like within that region specifically, because I think it's probably surprising a lot of people, right? What are some of the countries beyond Peru? Yeah, that's an amazing experience. What are some of like the real hidden places where people may never think that they can eat
Yeah.
well? And like to your point, not eating Michelin star, but eating
Mhm.
well and eating hearty, but also at the same time paired with a conversation where you can actually learn something. What are the
Oh,
best
yeah.
spots
I
to
mean, all up and down the Andes is a treasure trove because there's so many traditions in the Andes, from Colombia to Ecuador to obviously Peru. But if you want to go deeper, go to Argentina and go to northern Argentina, Salta, Mendoza. This is land of wine and land of beef. Amazing culinary experiences can happen here. And you're eating al fresco, you're out on the vineyards, you can participate with the farmers. I just love that region because if you want to be active, you can. There's deserts and mountains and hiking and horseback riding. You can cross borders to Chile to go to the Atacama Desert. I mean, there's so many amazing moments where you feel like you're on a different planet in this part of the world. Add Bolivia into that with the largest salt flats in the world. You're sleeping in a hotel made of salt. My kid is running around licking walls. All of that is so memorable being in a 4x4 Jeep. If you want that Indiana Jones experience where you feel like you're somewhere where it hasn't been discovered yet, even though it has, other people have gone there, but it still feels raw. And I don't think there's anywhere else in the world where you get that anymore, except in Latin America.
very few. And I think like a lot of people like to come back and tell their circle, well, I did this, and they love that they can bet for sure that nobody else has done it, and they
And the
brag,
idea
right?
is, and the idea is that there are luxury hotels. You're not going to be roughing it. The way I like to explain the days are, first of all, it's not a vacation. It's an expedition. Like we do adventures, right? So we rough it by day because we're outdoors. We're doing amazing things, ruins, caves, kayaking, all of that. But then at night, you are spoiled. There are Patagonia lodges that are utter luxury. There are Atacama in the desert, there on Easter Island, everywhere. There are five-star hotels. So you can definitely please any type of client. And I tell that to not only how I train salespeople, but also when travel advisors come to us. We are a tour operator, so we work with lots of travel advisors as well, especially when they're lost when it comes to this part of the world. And I tell them, they don't have to rough it. There's something for everyone in Latin America for sure.
I'm glad that you said that because a lot of people have that perception about Africa too. Like, I'm not ready for this. You're not ready for seven-star luxury. You're
Yeah.
not ready for like a bed under the stars. You're not ready for being pampered and and
Completely
cooked
agree.
for,
That's why I think it goes really well. Anyone who has gone on a safari will love Latin America and vice versa. Anyone who has gone to the Galapagos, I know they love wildlife. Then I share with them my ideas for Africa. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I think so. And you brought up the Galapagos because that's interesting. I think what makes me laugh, because you and I, like we're in this business but on different sides. So I sell the Galapagos to, most people don't believe that people live there, right? What do you mean? I thought you just take a cruise and there's islands, like because we have a very good friend in common, and a company in common. And it makes me crack up because people ask, like, well, how do you like raise a kid in the Galapagos? What do you eat? Like as if there's no food. So
They
tell
ride turtles to work.
I know, and like people are surprised. There's a craft brewery, there are
Yes.
people, those
I
coffee.
love bringing that up. They're making
Yeah.
amazing coffee and beer and liquor now. There's some really fun characters. So I actually love now. I have been to Ecuador 7 times. I love the Galapagos. I love showing people what they can do if they get off the cruise or combine the cruise with some land opportunities, sleep in a glamping, camp. Like there's some really fun experiences that we can do that. Sleep on an island where there are no communities, where it is just one little lodge. So we try to attach that either to a cruise if someone is keen on cruising or just do island hopping. Because there's so many different ways to do that. And private boats in between just for day tours if you don't want to sleep on a boat. But yeah, there's plenty of that. This is why the best thing to do is have a conversation, because you only know what you know. So even us, we're learning something every day. I think that's what keeps us in the industry for sure.
because the world is big, and it's not that new places pop up. They always existed. It's just we find out about them.
They evolve and pivot like we do.
I know. I know. So let's talk about Southeast Asia is another one. I think people are a little trepidatious sometimes because they don't know how to do it and all of that logistics aside.
Yeah.
I think that there can be some amazing learning opportunities beyond culinary. So for someone who's maybe, doesn't know how to attack, like say it's like I don't know, a Vietnam or something. What are some of like real interesting things that people don't know about food in some of these remote places that maybe they'd be like, all right, I want to go and but I don't know what to eat. I'm afraid of the food and all of that kind of stuff. Like what's the best way to
I
think
love when people go to
about?
Southeast Asia for the first time because I think they have this idea of what to expect there, like that everything will be spicy in Thailand and it'll just be noodles in Vietnam and then
From a street cart, right? Like I can only
or everything will be from a street cart, exactly. Which
but
all of those things are true, but then there's so much more.
yeah.
I love adding Cambodia, especially because people know Thailand and people know Vietnam. I think there's like a big population that has that on their bucket list. But when you add Cambodia in there and step outside of Angkor Wat, don't just go for the temples, but go for the people, go for the food. We do some amazing things where they'll start the day going to a crazy indigenous market where there are snakes and frogs on sticks and all those fun things. And it's more for a cultural experience than for shopping because first we like to just give them that wow factor. And then they'll meet a fantastic chef, go to his kitchen that's set up in the jungle, surrounded by pepper farms. You're picking up all the spices and peppers and everything you're going to be cooking with. And then you get to cook together, like in this jungle with monkeys. And that is like so memorable. Then you wind up eating the dish. It's very traditional, pepper steak dish that he usually cooks with the guests. And your palate is exploding with new flavors because you've never had this before, and with the whole experience because you're hands-on, and hands-on is huge at Sade Adventures. We always try to incorporate something where you're not just sitting in a bus looking out the window and you're not just watching someone prepare the dish for you. The best comments I get from clients, even those CEOs and those people who have never touched a chef's knife before, they remember the cooking class because they were involved, they were engaged, and they will remember the stories of the chef and, the local people who are there. So those moments, and we do that all throughout Southeast Asia. The one in Cambodia always sticks out to me because it's so unique just to be outdoors cooking, like you belong there, like you've always done it.
No, people love that because it's something we never do, And then you have the other side. So let me ask you about the people that just want the high-end dining. I know that that's a little bit difficult, and sometimes that's a little more exclusive to get a hot chef to, like a celebrity chef to teach them. But where, let's take, I don't know, it could be anywhere in the world. Where do you think, some of the best high-end dining?
Well, it always goes back to Peru because 3 of the top 10 restaurants in the world are there. So we always get requests for tables.
I love it. I was hoping you'd turn it around to something that would surprise people because like, Paris, no, it's somewhere else,
Yeah, El Central, number 1, Maido, I think number 4, and there's Maito, number 7, let's say. But there, at least 3 of them are the top 10. And they're people don't even know the country. People don't even know the city, but they know the name of the restaurant and they're like, I want to eat there. And we will build a whole trip around a reservation. And I love that because I will fly down. Oh, by all means. When Quito opened its first restaurant that is on the top 50 list, we flew just for the weekend just to eat there because to me,
all the time.
Experience
Most memorable meals. I'm like, excited for your birthday. Well, I really want to eat that dish. All right, so let's do that, because I can't get it anywhere else.
You understand.
Yeah, I do. No, I think that's amazing because I think it's such a draw. People say, why do you travel? So many people say the food, but it's interesting because they really don't know. Like when somebody goes to Rome, most of the time they do the research in a tourist kind of, or like, they'll look in a magazine and be like, oh, so-and-so says, but I think it's the, you're forgetting the importance of using an advisor and a planner who has looked through the nooks and crannies and like, do not go here. Do not spend 500 euros on your dinner. Go here. It looks like a hole in the wall, but you're going to have the best meal of your life.
Yeah, and even in a place as popular as Rome, when you have someone local that lives there, that knows the city, he will guide you, on an eating tour, on a, tasting tour, but you are going to go into places that you would have not even seen on your own. So, yes, you can go to Italy on your own. Yes, you will see the same sights, but you will not have the same experience if you don't have some kind of guidance from a local person.
It's so true. There's nothing funnier than like talking to anybody in Rome and be like, "Oh yeah, what do you think of this restaurant?" And they just give you that like that
Yes.
heart, that nose up in there, like they don't even want to answer you. They didn't want to
Yes.
dignify with a response like, "Who the hell would go there?" You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Except for like a tourist that wouldn't know any better. But I think that
Yeah,
that's
and things change all the time, right? Because a restaurant that might have been really hot 5 years ago and you're reading about it, now it might be the number one tourist spot and you want to avoid it. So
yeah.
talk to local people, talk to the people who do this day in and day out. It makes such a difference.
Absolutely. So I would say my final question to you is what destination do you think is going to, I guess, be on your radar as one of the next, best food places to take a look at?
Yes, and I'm actually working on something for a group of chefs right now, and it's Brazil. It is so Brazil has been so quiet, especially since COVID, and it is, it was the place where the slavery, came through Brazil, through those ports. But what happens when ships of people come? Flavors come, spices come, all kinds of different new recipes come, and they stayed in Brazil and then mixed with all the other people who passed through this wonderful, very large country. So flavors from the Amazon, flavors from the coast, African flavors, all are mixed in this amazing place. And between Salvador de Bahia and Rio de Janeiro, that's going to be the next hotspot for food. And we're creating some really great itineraries around it. And not only Michelin star restaurants, but street food, and local grannies, in their turbans and their big white dresses, they're cooking up a storm in the streets and you're taking part of it. And, then add the samba and all the, heat and flavor of Brazil. It's going to be huge.
I love that. Well, we can't wait to see it because I agree with you. Quiet is the word. I mean, people have just it's kind of fallen off the radar, and I love that you said that because for some reason it's just it's taken a step back, and it's a really rich place to go. It's a rich, not like dazzling, not in super over the top luxury, but rich in like the culture and the personalities behind places that you go, and places that people own when you meet the owners, shops, it could be designers. And what I always find about Brazil is so much of it, and I hope that you'll probably agree with me, has to be delved into, right? Like you even go to a city like Sao Paulo, everything, and I love it. I go for work, it's fine, but it's not the most attractive city on the outside.
Yeah.
Like you don't see like the doors are big, but like, imposing and not very welcoming. But then you go in that door and then you like, this is great design.
And there's a courtyard and parrots and yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting. So I think that's kind of an interesting place to take a look at next because so many people, again, are like, how would I even tackle it? Where would I go? And everything looks scary. Right, exactly. A person like you, but it doesn't have to be scary. And I think at the end of the day, food doesn't have to be scary. Like don't ever look at a destination and say, well, what would I eat there? There's always something.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be scary. I love it. I'm going to use that tagline.
No, it's true. Like we sell Japan all the time. Well, what would I eat there? I don't like sushi. It's a big country and it's still pretty diverse. There's more than that. You don't just have to eat sushi every day. You know what I mean? Like you can do whatever you want. I know the world is interesting, right?
I love it. I love it. But don't you love it when they come back and say, you were right. It was amazing. It was delicious. Yeah. Like,
or I went out of my comfort zone and I tried something I never thought I'd try. That to me is like the cool. That's better than like someone trying an adventure. Someone trying a new dish and saying, "Wow, thanks for telling me." That was pretty cool.
Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. And I will have you back to talk about more food because I'm sure by the next time we do this, you'll have something else. Like there'll be another destination that you're investigating how yummy it is.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.